Backstage, 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 DC.
With Natalie. Hi, it's Natalie Graves Tucker with Blackstage DC, and I am on the set at Everyman Theatre, where I'm about to see Sweat by Lynn Nottage and directed by Vincent M. Lanchisi. I am going to go backstage with Blackstage with three of the leading actors, Dawn Ursula, Vaughn Ryan Mitter, and JaBen early.
I'm in a program.
and is having a drink part of that program?
It's not the same.
I beg to differ.
That's all you gotta say?
What you want me to say?
I'm just trying to show you I'm trying.
I got accepted into the teaching program at Albright.
What? Come again?
Yeah, starting in September.
Tell us what character you're playing in Sweat.
I am playing Cynthia, who is one of the many people who work in the factory, but also the estranged wife to another character, Brucey, and the mother of Chris, who also works in the factory as well.
Right. So how is this piece reflective of the current situation, but particularly for Baltimore?
Yeah. In every way, it could have been, it's set in Reading, Pennsylvania. In every way, it could have been set in Baltimore and so many other cities.
Right.
The history of Baltimore with the docks, the plants, the businesses that were here, and then what happens to a city and to its people when not only a means of work, life, but career, right? Goes away. And then how do people recover when it feels like the city and the rest of the country is ignoring their struggle, right? There is a subtle elitism, I think, that is just within the fabric of the play. That, if you work hard with your hands and that business goes away, well, do something. Figure it out. Get an education or go back to school. And the loss of the respect for people, generations who say, no, this is what I want to do, and I'm good at it, and I'm proud of it, and it's honorable work. And the formula, supposedly, is that I do this work, I put in my time, and in the end, I will have a life. And so when that's ripped away, what happens?
This story is, your character, without trying to give it away for the audience, is an African-American father, and it shows two different timelines, but, you're struggling, unemployed, you have some not flashbacks, you have some, you're going through some things that might be a result of your environment.
Absolutely.
We hear this narrative all the time about black men, whether it's on the news, and, it's just, dang. So how do you take care in presenting that,
So the first thing I try to remember, and I have this in conversations when anyone has a particular critique or perspective about African Americans, that Americans in general also suffer from these same things, but somehow a bigger microscope is somehow put on things that we do that everyone does.
Right. So
you have a whole nation of people who are losing their jobs, but a black man out of work somehow is somehow a bigger thing. Right. And somehow it represents some systematic thing about the black community, which I don't think it does. And so in this play, you get to explore what that is for him. He is a man who's just fallen in the footsteps of his father.
Right.
And his father was very successful in doing this. His father was a laborer in the tradition of Americans being laborers and establishing themselves and working themselves into the middle class or out of the middle class. And so he's kind of in this place where he sees his father having been very successful. He has absolutely no agency, no power, no job. And his son, who's an intelligent person, who is also following in the footsteps, so at least it's a third generation, will have no industry to work in.
Right.
So it's not even a matter of whether or not his son is a hard worker or any of these things, or not a stereotypical black man, whatever that means. So, so he's kind of stuck in the middle. He's telling me there's nothing for him to do. And so I try to deal with him as an individual in that sense. I know people are going to read certain things into it, but there's nothing I can do about it. Just like how we're dealing with the opioid epidemic now. So it's a black man who's dealing with being strung out, but he's strung out because of a very American thing. He's a factory worker. These factory workers are given opioids to deal with the pain, consistent pain that they're dealing with. And then when poverty hits, heroin is cheaper. I mean, that's what's happening in white America everywhere. So it's also happening to this black man specifically in this in this play, in this context. So I just try to keep, give myself not a pass, but just know that America in general is going through these things, and to not make it specific to being an African American.
Well, good. You won a Helen Hayes Award in DC Theater for Avenue Q, your role in Avenue Q. You've played some fun roles.
Yeah.
How did you prepare to play for this blue-collar worker here in Baltimore?
So I was doing some research on Lynn Nottage and the play once I got cast, and Reading, fortunately for us, is but 2 hours away. So I actually went to Reading, Pennsylvania the weekend before we started rehearsals, and went to Mike's Tavern, one of the places that she went to interview folks and get some inspiration, just to see what the vibe of the community is there, just how the people carry themselves, what's on the forefront of their mind. And I spoke to a few folks. And then another specific thing that I did was I researched habits that are hard for ex-prisoners that are recently released to break. I was trying to get an understanding of what it's like to re-enter the world that is just completely changed. My character's away for 8 years, so when he's released, not only does he go from essentially a boy to a man, the world has just, as far as he's concerned, changed. And the world that he knew for the past 8 years was very confined and very different, so I wanted to get a sense of what is life like for him the past 8 years, and how do I react differently in those scenes versus when you see Chris in the 2000 in the earlier 2000s. And then, aside from that, some of the overlap wasn't hard for me at all. I'm 25 right now. I'm right in the middle of where Chris is throughout this, the trajectory of the play. So just the main theme of confusion and finding yourself and looking for answers. Like I said, when the rules change, it's easy to empathize. Every day I wake up, I'm trying to, as best I can, think of what the best move is for me, professionally, personally, politically, and just hope for the best and maybe take a step out there and pray that it doesn't set you backward.
Okay. Well, I've been following him since he came on the scene in DC Theater, and I'm proud of your success, and I'm proud of your path, and I can't wait to see what your future is going to be like. And from your thorough research, I'm sure it's going to show on stage, so I'm looking forward to seeing it.